You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. Not one of them is not indigenous. And for all these motherfuckers out there that talking about they know metal now, I'm gonna show y'all some real, some original goddamn walls. I don't have to go get no motherfucking books. I got my own, goddammit. Motherfucker reading some Wallace Budge and shit. Talking about he reading motherfucking metal now. The motherfuckers ain't reading no metal now. Cause if you ain't even been to Africa, how the fuck can you read it? When you look at the metal now, all of the animals is indigenous African animals. When you look at all the plants is indigenous African plants. When you look at even the columns, the papyrus column, it is the architecture, the physical architecture is nothing but a representation of the environment, the animals, the plants. And so when you get into Africa and you just step back and you watch it, you watch the animals, you don't do shit, you step back. You watching the metal now, okay? So how in the fuck can a nigga read the metal netta if he's never seen Africa? That's all I want to know. You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals.
But I wanted to go deep back to Africa. I went back over 50,000 years here, going back to see all of Africa, not just bits and pieces of Africa. And taking this little flight down, I selected 7 brothers that could handle this. And I was also told that we were the first and only black group that ever came here. We're not talking about living in hotels now. We're talking about going back to the bush. And we see that our camp was invaded by baboons. And as we slept in the tents, I could hear the sound of ooh, ooh. And I asked our guide that day, the scout, what was that noise? He said, those were the lions. This is how far back we had to go. So let's go back to Africa. And here, one of the baboons said, Kwesi, I got to have a discussion with you. We got to talk. I said, talk about what? Because we called you Mheted Ra in Kemet. He said, I got some issues. And he got his boys, so I had to listen as they surrounded me in the camp. And I listened closely to what he was saying. He said, we were deified in Kemet. He said here, they said that animal worship, it was about showing the attributes with nature, Mother Nature, and showing that we were one with nature. And ancient Kemet displayed that on the ancient monuments because we were the first to give praise to Ra as we praise to the east on the monuments that we put on the Tekanus that represented resurrection. That's what Mheted Ra was trying to tell me, that we were placed right there on the monuments. So we saw that we were close with nature. Not like the Europeans who tried to conquer nature, but showing that we were one with the spiritual forces, as you see the Medu Neter, the world's first language on the Tekanus right there, as I listened to Mheted Ra tell me how our ancestors deified him closely, and I said, I'll make sure I will tell you a story.
Look at all of the metal now. Go in there, get the books, open it up. I guarantee you, if you study all of the zootypes, I will guarantee you they're indigenous African animals. You understand what I'm saying? And so, when you come into Africa, and you see and you step back and you watch the animal life, you watch the spirit of the land, that is the metal now. So the first prerequisite, that's right, let me get it right, is to first see Africa. We're discussing the Egyptian writings, you know, the carvings on the stone, on the papyrus. This is the oldest spiritual writings on the planet Earth. Now you see this 3,000 years before the Indian even on the scene. He got that from the Africans that preceded him by thousands of years. He don't know what the hell he's doing. He just took it because he knew that it was righteous and that we were the chosen of God and it must be right. If we see them doing it, we gonna do it. See? But the African got it from the baboon. See? We was watching, that's what the metal net is. When you're watching everything in creation, you're going to get a science from it. You're going to get a science from it. Okay? And so they was watching the baboons praying to Ra when Ra rise in the morning, and they began to pray to Ra. Okay? See? Now when you see the that our African family got it from the baboon, he can't tell you where the hell it came from. He don't know the deeper science. See, you got to go back to Africa to get the deeper science. That's how you know Africa holds the key. Anytime when you take it way back to the source of it, and that's an African animal, then you see that ritual in the secret societies all over the planet. You know that Egypt and Africa is the mother of the mysteries. Okay? See, he don't know what the hell he's doing. He's just doing the ritual. That's our great god Tahuti, the baboon. And when the sun comes up early in the morning, the sun shines so bright that the baboons throw their hands up to block the sun. So our African ancestors said that the baboons was praying to Ra. So these are the symbols that the Masons came over and saw in the statues on the wall and on the papyruses and still. This is your knowledge. Look at the baboons that are brought up from Nubia. If Tahuti was not a Nubian god, why would his sacred symbol be animals that come up out of Nubia? You got to study them Zootypes. You got to study them Zootypes. All of the Zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. And so this is a image of Nubia. This is an image of the Nubians. And what you're seeing right here is industry. Okay? And so this is showing, now we've been told that the Nubians was slaves. And no goddamn slave got no industry. The hell a goddamn slave got industry. You understand? The Nubians was the backbone of ancient Egypt. Everything, all of the Zootypes that you see that's sacred to Egypt, you see the Nubians, from the Hormatic, the Sphinx, the lion. You understand what I'm saying? You see the Nubians bringing these sacred Zootypes up from the south. You see the ostrich egg and the ostrich feather, which is sacred to Ma'at, which is also sacred to Amen, okay, which is also sacred to Asa. You see elephant tusks, you see the shields, you see furniture, all of what it takes to build a nation. The Nubians was creating all of this for ancient Egypt. Yeah. And so it goes back to our Nubian ancestors and their production and manufacturing of all things that they needed. Okay? Now, the ostrich, to show you that all of the Zootypes are indigenous to Africa. So when people talking about that the civilization of Egypt came from on the outside, tell them to prove it. Okay? If you go out of town, you from the D, you know you're gonna rock that old English D wherever you go. If you coming from New York, you know they gonna put on their Yankees hat. If you coming from LA, they gonna wear the Lakers. They gonna rock the symbols of where they come from. So if a people come from somewhere else, then we should expect that wherever they came from, they brought something with them. And we contend that all of the Zootypes on the walls of ancient Egypt, Nubia, Ethiopia are indigenous to Africa. What did they bring with them? That's all I'm asking. You show me. So when you look at the ostrich, this shows you on this map where they're indigenous to. Do the research, family. That's something everybody here can do. You want to do some homework? Look up all the Zootypes in ancient Egypt. Find out where they located, where their origins at. And when you find one that's not indigenous to Africa, you come and see me. I guarantee you that they all indigenous. Now, the Ethiopian ostrich feather, the Nubian origins of Kemet. So you study, when you look at these right here that the Nubians bring up, you can see them right there. That's a saw. Those are the ostrich feathers in a saw's hat. That's my art. That's showing you where the knowledge came from. Ah, damn it. Y'all got to look. I mean, it ain't, a lot of people think it's something deep. And it's not. It's deep. But the reason why it's hidden because it's so simple. It's right here on the walls. It's right here on the walls. Right there. Showing you the Ethiopian ostrich feathers. Okay, this right here is Amen. This is the hairdress of Amen. You see right here, again, this is Amen. You can tell the blue represents a sky deity. When you see blue in their face, that represents a sky deity. Matter of fact, wait a minute. That's not armor. That's Shu right there. If I'm not mistaken, that's Shu. I'll look it up and get it right. And see right there, that's the ostrich. You see the Africans from the interior bringing these animals down. And that's the only place on the planet where the ostrich reside. It's an African animal. So ain't nobody brought that. That was here. We don't need you to bring something that was already here. So we know them deities as African deities.
Also look at the Ethiopian ostrich feather, a part of the Nubians, and look at the goddess Ma'at. If the goddess Ma'at was not from Nubia, why would she be wearing that feather? Again, look at the Nubians with the Ethiopian ostrich feather that is also worn by the goddess Ma'at. The goddess Ma'at is a Nubian goddess.
You got to study them Zootypes. You got to study them Zootypes. All of the Zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. Okay, you see the leopard? See the leopard? Sacred to the priesthood. Sacred to the priesthood. Okay, let's look at that deeper. That's the temple of Beit El Wali, Lord Nubia. So if you happen to go online, you need to look it up. Write it down. Go look it up. You ain't got to take my, what you see up on the screen for actual fact. Look it up for your damn self. You can see it. Okay. Now that's I. That's I. Okay, that's the king that came after Tutankhamun. And he's performing the opening of the mouth on King Tutankhamun. But you see the leopard skin. You see the leopard skin right there on this brother right here, this African priest too. Okay, so was represented. Leopard skins were worn by the Sim priest and the high priest of Ra at Heliopolis. You can look Sim priests up. Write it down. The cash skin shows you the universal brotherhood of the priest system. So just like the queen was just mentioning, she was mentioning the Zulus. These are some brothers, I don't know, I think this brother right here is from South Africa. And one of these brothers, but it's universal all over the continent. So you see right here in Egypt, you see the African culture that has been passed down into Egypt from Southern Africa. You understand what I'm saying? You see them leopard skins. And matter of fact, this is giraffes skins. You also see a lot of these leopard tails that the priest is wearing. All the symbols of the Egyptian priesthood, the Nubians is bringing them up. Okay? That leopard skin, right, the leopard come out of the interior of Africa. Study it. Study the murals of ancient Egypt. All of the priests wore the leopard skin. Now, here we go. See Bess? See Bessie and the brothers still today are wearing the leopard skins. They still wearing it. This is proof positive that science came up out of Southern Africa. Now you're dealing with when the brothers went across the water. Okay, now this is in Omeka land, which you call America today. So what the Africans did, they didn't make them wear the leopard skin because they knew that there were no leopards here. That the jaguar was, so they didn't force the culture on them. They showed them how they deified nature, and they came here, and what they saw here, they deified. The jaguar skin, or the jaguar was the sacred cat that was sacred on this land. And so they deified the jaguar. Now, this is in India. Now, this is the priest of Shiva. You can look Shiva up. S-H-I-V-A. And if I go on here right now, which I can stop, I'm going to show you. Bingo. 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 This is Shiva. Okay? And what you're going to see at the bottom, what you see? The tiger. See the tiger? That's the brotherhood. That's the brotherhood. Okay, that they took off. And so in India, they deified the tiger. You know, is it just a coincidence? Nigga, just, everybody wearing cats and shit? just everybody walking, nobody conscious of nobody. We just all wearing cats and shit. Okay then. It's just that we didn't force like the white man. We didn't force our culture on nobody. Yes, sir. Now, this is Greece. See? See the fags?
Yeah.
See the homosexuals? What the hell they know about it? See, they came and saw it on the walls of ancient Egypt. That's Dionysus. Again, Dionysus. Let me go back to that. I should have put Beth's name down there. But see Beth? See Beth, the oldest deity of the Nile, the first human type on the planet. They brought it from the south. And here you got this ugly Dionysus stealing and gonna tell us we ain't got no damn history. And they stealing all of our history. And so, a lot of, we used to wear, the queens wear the leopard skins. Y'all know how y'all wear the boots. Wear the boots. Even was wearing the bodysuits. Leopard bodysuits and all of that. You didn't even know you was going back. You didn't even know you was going back. You look good. It look good. Dionysus, see the leopard skin? See the leopard skin?
Look at the leopard skins and look up to the left at the Ethiopian ostrich feathers. The leopard skins are worn by the Egyptian priests. Look at the leopard skin that is worn by the pharaoh Ai. And then look at the Nubians bringing the leopard skins up from Nubia.
You got to study them Zootypes. You got to study them Zootypes. All of the Zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals.
It is here that our ancestors had us study from the 42 books of Tahuti, representing science, law, and intelligence, who was represented as the ibis bird that you saw. We saw those little white birds that we saw come over here. So our ancestors looked at nature. We didn't worship the bird, but it was an attribute of science, attribute of intelligence. Tahuti writing down the deeds of our life on earth as we lived here. This is where the Western philosophical thought, Greeks took their concept of Hermes Trismegistus from Tahuti, now called thought too.
The trestle board. Anybody that's in masonry understand, they say the trestle board is where every mason supposedly draws out their spiritual temple. That's where they draw their spirit. It's only symbolic, understanding that they got that from Tahuti.
When you look at Tahuti, what I want you to look deeply at is the saturations in his headdress. Look at the saturations in his headdress, and then look at the right to the Olmec representation of Tahuti. You see those same saturations in the top of the ibis, the sacred ibis of what we call Tahuti, Jehuti. Again, we're looking at the symbolic meaning of Tahuti. We're looking at the ibis, and again, the sacred baboon of Tahuti, proving without any doubt that his great wisdom as the deity of all sacred wisdom in the Nile Valley had come to the Americas and was one of the front deities in the craft system right here on these shores and in these lands that we call the Americas.
You got to study them Zootypes. You got to study them Zootypes. All of the Zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals.
Again, our ancestors looked at nature to symbolize various attributes of nature. We did not worship insects. We did not worship animals. Okay? They represented various attributes of nature. For instance, the little scarab beetle was symbolized as the great mind. Why? Because the top of the little scarab beetle was identical to the top of the cranial cavity of the brain. So the little scarab was looked at as the great mind of Ptah. That was Ptah's symbol, the scarab that created the universe. Also how the scarab, okay, would roll up his dung, okay, and make the sun. That was a symbol of being self-created, because the eggs would have to feed from the dung, and that was a symbolic as being self-created. Now, when we see something like this, we say, I sure don't understand what our ancestors was doing back in those days. They put this big bug on this body. What in the world is this? What you see here, remember I said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit of God moved across the deep. Okay? So we see nothing but darkness. The scarab symbolized Ptah, black. The red body symbolized the sun that was created. Our ancestors saw ourselves in relationship with that of nature. We were totally connected with nature. We did not worship animals and insects. There were various attributes because we looked at nature for our communication. Okay? That's why we were not destructive towards nature.
So what we see is mind over body. And that's how we see the little scarab creating the sun, because it's red like you see the body here is being red. The body was looked at as the great sun. That's why you call your sun the sun today. Symbolized as that sun. Okay? So here we see the little scarab rolling up the dung was symbolic as how Patel rolled up the sun in the universe and created the light. This was all symbolic and all various attributes.
You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals.
In Ethiopia, you also see St. George slaying the dragon, but that's equally an ancient African story, because the Coptics, you see Haru in the form of a falcon sitting on the horse slaying the crocodile. But you go and see, when you look at this transition, as I show our groups in Kemet, the show has been passed down from thousands of years when Haru slayed the hippo. They represented Set. So it's an ancient African story that's passed down for thousands of years. It ends up in Christianity today.
You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. Our queen mother, black goddess, Mu, you see her right there, giving praise. The black woman is God. The black woman is God. A lot of people don't understand that. And you can see right there, even right with the Uranus. You see right here the cobra, and you see the vulture, Wajet, and the cobra deity. But both of those, that's the goddess of the north and the goddess of the south. You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. Okay, we on now. This is another step, and just like I say, this is just a stone slab. Sometimes it can be wood. You understand? This is representative of a pharaoh's name. I can't tell you exactly who it is. I can get the knowledge, when I get home and do some research. But you see, this is representative of a temple down here in this name. You see the snake, and this is a Haru king. So this was one of the earlier kings of ancient Egypt. I think, matter of fact, this was one of the first dynasty kings, because these were the Haru kings. They had to come down and they had to kick some ass down in Kemet to get it straight. They had to straighten it out. See the red, white, and blue? See the red, white, and blue? This is where all of them got that from. They stealing from us. Stealing from ancient Kemet. Right there, the red, white, and blue. The back of the dollar. The back of the dollar. It can clearly be seen. A lot of this, if you lay it side by side, it don't even need no explanation. It could just be easily seen to have been thievery and plagiarization from the walls and the temples of ancient Kemet. You got to study them zootypes. You got to study them zootypes. All of the zootypes of ancient Kemet are indigenous African animals. The lion, and you see the Nubians bringing these sacred zootypes up from the south.
Tens of thousands of years before there was a lion of Judah, there was a lion of Kemet. That's just self-evident. Heru on the horizon. The lion is an animal indigenous to Africa. Understand that. That the lion is indigenous to Africa. It's an African animal. And it was deified thousands of years in the motherland before any Hebrew was known as the Lion of Judah. The Lion of Kemet Kush, Tahuti, 25th dynasty, 690 to 664 BCE. The Lion of Kemet, Amenemhet III, 1842 to 1797 BCE. All the kings of Kemet and Kush took on the role of the lion because it was the most powerful of all the animals. And you even see Sekhmet, the lioness, who was the goddess of war. So they even have the feministic side of that principle of the lion. Again, the Lion of Kemet Kush, Tahuti. And this is taken from Proverbs 19, verse 12. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favor is dew upon the grass.
You see, and you see right here, Ramesses. See, they trained the lions. This is what the brothers was doing. Just like, you know, we train pit bulls today. See, we trained them lions. We took them to war. You understand? And many times we took them to different lands, such as India. Even though Asia has a lion, this is the only place where you can find a lion in Asia. Right there. It's in the Gir Forest. Right here. That lets you know it's not indigenous. See, if it was indigenous, it'd be all over Asia, just like the tiger. See, the African kings took them lions into warfare on ships, you understand? And when you look at a lot of these temples right here, the temple of Aset, you see the two lions in front of the temple. You see that right in the neighborhood. When you see two lions in front of somebody's house. That came from Africa. That's the goddess Aset right there. And as you see the lions here in Africa, this is in China. This is in India, where they got the two lions in front of their temple. See, going back to Africa, to the goddess Aset's temple. And then you come to China, and you see right there the lions in front of their temple. That show you the universal mysteries that was taken out by the African priests all over the planet. And this is Sri Lanka. Ain't even got a lion in Sri Lanka, but it's on their flag. Why? This predates them. These were symbols of the African kings and warriors that was coming across the water. They were the ones establishing this. This shows you their allegiance to Africa. Because that's an African animal. Why would you have an African animal on an Asian flag? See? And you see right there the early little short people that we call the Twa, the white man called the pygmy. Seen right there with his zoomorphic lion form, showing he was the first lion of Kemet. That's where you get the Lion of Judah. I know. I respect it, but it's the truth. You ain't get it before we got it. And it's in the interior of Africa.
The main zootype of the Asiatic was the camel. The main zootype of the Asiatic was the camel. The main zootype of the Asiatic was the camel. The main zootype of the Asiatic was the camel.
All the animals you see on the walls of ancient Egypt, you don't see the camels. Because they had nothing to do with it. All the animals you see on the walls of ancient Egypt, you don't see the camels. Because they had nothing to do with it.
The main zootype for the white man was the dog. Flat out. And you could go study that. You can go right there to the Vatican City and you'll see Remulus and Romulus sucking on the titties of a she-wolf. Flat out. And you could go study that. You can go right there to the Vatican City and you'll see Remulus and Romulus sucking on the titties of a she-wolf. Look at all of the metal now. Go in there, get the books, open it up. I guarantee you, if you study all of the zootypes, I will guarantee you they're indigenous African animals. Every last from Sekhmet to the ram, from almond, from the falcon of Heru, what else? What the other? The ibis, the Egyptian ibis, that's indigenous. Okay, what else? The hippopotamus, the Nile crocodile, the ostrich, ma'at, that's all indigenous. You understand what I'm saying? And so when you come into Africa and you see and you step back and you watch the animal life, you watch the spirit of the land, that is the metal now. So the first prerequisite, that's right. Let me get it right. Is to be first see Africa. We're discussing the Egyptian writings. You know, the carvings on the stone, on the papyrus. This is the oldest spiritual writings on the planet Earth.